So, fellas, let's get into our keys to victory. And you guys know the drill. We're going to make our predictions. I'll have each of you guys explain how you see the game playing out, and then I'll ask you about game balls. So, Ryan, there's no secret. None of us are like, gee, I wonder who they're going to pick this week. And we haven't even pretended like, well, we may have some interesting picks this weekend. We know how this game is going to go, or we know how this game should go. Will it go that way? That's what we're going to find out. And none of us know. That's why the keys to victory are so important. But Ryan, with all that being said, tell us your score and tell us how you see the game being played out.
So I have 38-9. Notre Dame wins. I actually had higher than that. Like originally I had written down 48-9, but like I came down a little bit. Just one, didn't want to sound homerish. Two, I do think that there's a little part of me that, and I wrote something about this today actually, where a team that has no identity, which I think Florida State doesn't, that does worry me early on in a football game at times, because when we're talking about the preparation of a coach and a system against a team, the more familiarity you have, if you understand exactly what their quarterback does, exactly what their wide receivers do, exactly what their run game is built upon, I think that helps obviously a fast start defensively. But I do think the fact that you're rotating two quarterbacks, that you have had so many issues on the offensive line as far as the exact five that are going to be up front, the fact that we've seen the running back position be really just decimated with injuries, I do think that unknown parameter behind what the offense is actually going to be built upon can lead to maybe a drive or two early where they can move the ball and maybe, take some time off the clock. But at the end of the day, Notre Dame's defense is just too talented for this team. I think they settle in and they're dominant for the majority of this football game. And I think the offense makes some big plays, but I do think that 38 points against this team is still a good number when you consider all the NFL talent that is on the team ultimately for Florida State. So I have 38-9 as the decider in this one.
Ryan, the game goes the way you see it played out. Who gets your offensive game ball?
I'm going to go with Jeremiah Love. I've been back and forth between him and Riley Leonard, but I'm just going to go with Love because I think that the best case, I don't say the best case scenario, because I do think opening up the passing game even more and really start to get that thing up another notch is big for this team. But I also think that especially when you get down the stretch of the season, when it matters most and you're getting close to playoff time, I think getting your best players ramped up and ready to go and clicking at their highest level is huge for a team. So I'm going to say Jeremiah Love goes off 100 plus yards rushing, a couple touchdowns. Jeremiah Love has a big football game.
All right. What about the defense, Ryan?
Xavier Watts. I feel like he's been the most consistent defensive player that Notre Dame's had all year. And this is a game, again, against a couple young quarterbacks that are prone to making some bad decisions at times. I wouldn't be surprised if Xavier has an interception or two in this game, maybe a pass breakup or two, a couple big stops in this one. Overall, I think Xavier Watts continues to have a very good final year for Notre Dame.
Trevor, I'm a little mad. I'm going to have to uninvite Ryan from next week's show because he just took both of my game balls. Took both of them, Ryan. You took both of them.
No, doesn't it feel like a Xavier Watts game, though, right? Where he's just like mid-hole in a couple plays.
I've been saying that since I first started diving into Florida State. Oh, my God. Xavier Watts might have 3 interceptions in this game. I swear to you, I've been thinking all that all week. Because I just have visions of like Caleb Williams throwing off his back foot with pressure in his face. And I'm like, I think, Trevor, you might have even said that earlier in the week, right? That you could see this being kind of like a Caleb Williams type game where he's just sailing balls, or did you say that about Miami? I think it might have been about Miami, or somebody told me that. But no, I think you nailed it, Ryan. So you said 30. You say 38-9. Okay, 38-9. All right, Trevor. How about you, man? How do you see? What's your score prediction, and how do you see this game playing out?
Yeah, no surprise here. I have Notre Dame winning 45-7. Here in this one, and I'm going to be honest with you. I'm going to put 45 at that is a very negotiable score to move up. I don't want to sound too much like a homer take here, but we've said it all week. This is not a good Florida State team, man. It's not, and I know that their defense is, I guess you could call it the strength of their team. But Notre Dame's offense is cooking right now. They are. And they just got done playing the best 3-game stretch that they've played so far this year. And they've had a bye week to kind of go through and refine some of the things that they've done. So I think this is going to be a 45-point game for Notre Dame because they are deciding that they are going to score 45 points. Not, they rattled off their final whatever in the second half. I think it's going to be a 31-point game come halftime, and then just second stringers are in the second half. They go on 2 scoring drives. I could see it very much being that kind of game. I do.
So, Trevor, if the game goes the way you think it's going to go, who gets your offensive game ball?
So I went a little bit of a different route on this one. I'm going to say that the game ball for me, based on what we've talked about this week, is going to go to the offensive line for the game ball, because this is the Florida State defensive line is the one matchup on either side of the ball that we've talked about actually carries a little bit of weight, that we can look and say, based on how the offensive line performs against Florida State's, we can take something away from that into games into the future. Right? Like, if Notre Dame's defense holds Florida State to 3 points, that's not going to show me anything new about Notre Dame's defense, and it's not going to show me anything new about Florida State's offense, right? But with the talent and the size and the athleticism that their defensive line has, and with some of the question marks around Notre Dame's offensive line, I think Billy Schrouth coming back and is now, 2 weeks healthier than what he was against Navy. I think that's going to bode well for the offensive line. So I think in both phases, in pass pro and in run blocking, I think they're going to have a good game, like one where we can say, hey, if the offensive line plays like this is going to be a good team.
How about defense, Trev?
Defensively for me, and
you can actually pick one that somebody else did. I was just kind of giving Ryan a hard time, but yeah, you're able to pick something that somebody else did.
No, you're good. I'm going to go Leonard Moore for my defensive game ball. This kind of feels like a 2022 Clemson type thing with Ben Morrison. I feel like he's bound to break out. He had that really athletic interception in the back of the end zone against Navy. He's going to be targeted because, they're, as much as Florida State's going to try not to, Xavier Watts is just always in the right spot at the right time. But if I'm game planning, you kind of have to pick, I guess, the lesser of 2-3 evils on that defense. And I guess I'm going with the 6'2", 195, very athletic true freshman over Christian Gray, who has more experience. And, so I could see Leonard Moore coming away with a couple of takeaways this game, maybe something where he has, a forced fumble and an interception, but I'm going to go Leonard Moore for the defensive game ball.
I could see Christian Gray having that type of performance as well, where the quarterback just throws out into the flats, not knowing what's out there because he's getting pressured, and Christian's just, steps in front of it, assuming he's been on the jugs machine, like Ryan hinted about all week. So, good picks, guys. I'll be honest with you. This is not a homer pick at all. I truly see this playing out because of everything we've talked about. I'm going 49-6. A couple things. Number one, I don't think they can move the ball on this defense. I just don't see it. Their offense is not good, and this is by far the best defense they will have played all year. I think the Notre Dame offense is going to have a lot of short fields. And Ryan, what have we talked about? If things don't go their way, they're going to quit. And starting the ball at the midfield 4 out of their first 5 possessions because Notre Dame just buries that offense, to me, is exactly how you do that. I do think Jeremiah Love's going to have a big game. I do think the offensive line is going to do enough to allow the skill to take over this football game. And so my 49-6 is not so much about that I think the Notre Dame offense is going to go out there and have 600 yards of offense and score 49 points all on 75-plus yard drives. I don't think they're going to have a ton of yards because I don't think they're going to have a lot of field to work with because I do think this defense is going to absolutely dominate. And part of that 49 is because I do think they're going to get a defensive score in this game. Because you guys literally in the last 10 minutes, we've talked about 3 different defensive players we could see getting multiple interceptions against this offense. And you're talking about a team that's really not good at throwing the football, going against arguably the best secondary in college football, let me rephrase because of the injuries, at very least the best pass defense in college football. And you're doing that with a redshirt freshman who's not very good and a true freshman, and you've thrown at least 2 interceptions in 3 of your last 5 games. That kid's going to result in a very long day. And so I'm going 49-6. My game ball offensively, I was going to go with Jeremiah Love, but I'm going to give you something else to think about just because this is maybe forecasting what may come the final month. Could this be the breakout game for Mitchell Evans? Ryan, you and I talked about their linebackers and safeties. This is the kind of game where if Mitchell Evans was playing well all season, this is the kind of game we'd have predicted him to feast, right? This is exactly that kind of game a healthy Mitchell Evans would have done great in. Could this be the breakout game for him? That's going to be an interesting one. And then on the other side of the ball, if it's not going to be a DB, I think it's going to be Howard Cross because his athleticism against that offensive line could result in Howard having a monster night to where, yeah, Xavier Watts has 2 picks, but like they were both off of plays that Howard Cross was drilling the quarterback or something like that. You know what I mean? Like, I think Riley can have a big game against them too, but I just think of that slow interior offensive line going against this kid who's starting to really peak. Him and Riley are both starting to peak. I think Howard's skill set is just a nightmare for that offensive line that's really big and really slow. So that's my pick for player of the game. If it's not a DB, I could see it being something like that. I also think this is a game where Drake Bowen might have his first 10-plus tackle game if he gets enough snaps because of him being out at halftime. I just feel like he's going to feast on this run game because the 2 interior guys are just going to eat up the Florida State offensive line. So that's our predictions for Notre Dame against Florida State. Fellas, very well done. Great insight in the show tonight. Really appreciate y'all. No, I'm not going to see you on the post-game show, Ryan, because you're going to be in town. Hopefully we'll get a chance to see you on Saturday. Safe travels. Are you guys getting the RV? Or are you driving or are you flying?
Driving, buddy. Driving. Got a nice 10.5-hour drive tomorrow morning.
Well,
so let's do it.
My dad's making that trip right now. He's going to drive about halfway tonight from Virginia, and then he'll finish his trip up tomorrow. So we'll see him. Trev, I know you'll be at the tailgate. I know for sure on Saturday. And but you will be part of the post-game show. So we'll see Trev as part of the post-game show. So folks, have a great rest of your day. Notre Dame fans, you two have a great rest of your day. All of y'all aren't going anywhere, because we've got some more coming for you. I'm going to be joined by Bill Bender here in a second, folks, to preview this weekend's big games. But before we go, hit that like, hit that subscribe, hit the notification bell, share this podcast, give us a 5-star review. And as always, folks, make sure you sign up for the message board at boards.irishbreakdown.com.